Last night, a thunderstorm rolled through, and I was watching from my window when it happened. A single blinding flash that just split the sky in two. For a fraction of a second, the world was frozen in stark white light. Then, almost immediately, this bone-shaking crack of thunder. It felt like an event born and gone in less than a blink. Pure, raw, instantaneous power. But what if I told you that instant never really happened? What if that flash, the thing our brains register as a single, indivisible moment, is actually, well, a complete illusion? Because in reality, that lightning strike was a slow, deliberate drama. It was this long story of invisible charges gathering in the clouds, of leaders and streamers reaching out for each other, this complex electrical dance. It began long before the flash was visible, and actually continued long after it had faded. The instant we see, that's just the final explosive chapter. And it's not just lightning, this illusion, this myth of the instant. It's everywhere. Once you stop looking for the snapshot and start seeing the process, it really changes how you perceive reality itself. That's the challenge we're diving into today for you. We're going to really dig into this human tendency we have, framing the world in these neat, instantaneous snapshots. We'll explore how that perception might be, fundamentally flawed, and how both science and philosophy are painting a picture of a much more dynamic, continuous reality. It's about shifting our gaze from that quick flash to the unfolding, never-ending story.
It's true, isn't it? We're so wired to scroll through life as if it's a series of mental photos, quick snaps. But the universe, the universe is definitely playing the long-form movie, complete with all the fascinating deleted scenes and, director's cuts. It makes our neat little instants look almost quaint.
So, okay, if these instants are largely an illusion, maybe a trick of our perception, then what is reality fundamentally made of? This question kind of naturally leads us to a fascinating philosophical concept: events.
Yeah, it's quite profound when you really think about it. Even before language, pre-linguistic infants seem to intuitively grasp events, things that happen or occur, and they see them as distinct from objects that simply exist.
Okay, explain that difference more. Objects versus events.
Right. Think about an object like, say, that mug on your desk. It has pretty clear spatial boundaries, right? You know exactly where it is. But its temporal boundaries, they're fuzzy. When did it truly begin to exist, the atoms of firing? When will it stop being a mug?
Okay. Vague in time.
Exactly. Yeah. Now compare that to an event, like you taking a sip from that mug. The sipping itself has kind of vague spatial boundaries. Where does sipping end and swallowing begin? Exactly. But its temporal boundaries are strikingly crisp.
Yeah.
It starts at one point and ends at another. It happens then.
Ah, I see. So my coffee mug just sits there. It's this enduring presence. But my drinking of the coffee, that's the dynamic thing, the unfolding event. My mug is just dot being. My drinking is doing.
Precisely. Objects occupy space. Events, on the other hand, are much more forgiving. Multiple things can happen in the same space, right? A conversation, music playing, someone walking through, and objects can move. Events simply happen where and when they are. They don't really move in the same way.
Okay.
Philosophers often capture this distinction as enduring continuance. Those are the objects, fully present at every moment of their existence. Versus perduring occurrence, those are the events, things that persist by having different parts or stages at different times. Your coffee mug is an enduring continuant, but your actual coffee break, the whole thing, that's a perduring occurrent, a sequence of sips, thoughts, pauses, a process.
Suddenly, my humble coffee mug has become a philosophical superstar. Is this distinction, widely accepted, or is there a lively debate around it?
Oh, it's definitely a vibrant debate. Some philosophers push back, arguing that maybe objects and events aren't fundamentally different categories at all. They see them as simply different ways of looking at the same underlying reality. An object might just be a monotonous event, something changing very, very slowly.
Okay, like erosion, but on a time scale we don't notice for the mug.
Exactly.
Yeah.
While an event could be seen as an unstable object transforming rapidly. So it's more a matter of degree, maybe, a spectrum, rather than a hard separation. And this perspective suggests that pretty much everything is a process unfolding through time, which really dissolves that idea of a fixed, instantaneous thing.
That's a powerful idea, that everything is just process. It actually reminds me of a story I came across, a really quiet illustration of this exact concept. It was about an old woman in Japan near the coast of Kanagawa. After a typhoon, she'd walk the beach. But she wasn't looking for shells. She was looking for pieces of sea-worn pottery.
Oh, okay.
One day, she found this small blue and white shard. Now, for her grandson who was with her, it was just a broken piece of a bowl, an instantaneous discovery, Found it on a Tuesday afternoon. But she saw it completely differently. She held it up and told him, "This is not a moment. This is a long story." She imagined the potter, maybe decades or even a century ago, shaping the clay, the heat of the kiln, the family that used the bowl, the meal it held, the crack that eventually formed, and then its long journey in the ocean, tossed and smoothed by countless waves. She saw the typhoon not as the event that brought it to her, but just the latest chapter in its story. For her, that single shard wasn't a static object found in an instant. It was like a physical record of a continuous flowing process. She was seeing the full duration, not just the fleeting now of finding it.
That's a beautiful way to put it. What's truly insightful about that story one as you called it, is how it embodies this philosophical shift perfectly. Our usual perception, right? It fixes on the finding of the shard. That creates the illusion of the instant. But the deeper reality, as the old woman understood it, is that everything is unfolding through time, continuously.
Yeah.
That shard, the typhoon, even her walking the beach, it's all part of an ongoing interconnected process.
Yeah, it challenges us to look beyond the snapshot and see the entire reel of film, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Well, okay, if seeing a pottery shard in an entirely new, time-dissolving way wasn't mind-bending enough, let's go even deeper. Let's maybe step away from philosophy for a moment and plunge into the quantum world, because that takes this idea of reality as process and fundamentally shatters the instant in ways that are just deeply counterintuitive.
Oh, the quantum world is where our everyday understanding of how things work just, falls apart. In the most magnificent way, though. The first concept that really breaks down the instant is something called wave-particle duality.
Right, I've heard of this, light being both a wave and a particle.
Exactly. Think about light. When it passes through a prism, it behaves like a ripple, a wave, spreading out into a rainbow. Classic wave behavior. But when that same light hits, say, a solar panel, it acts like tiny, discrete packets of energy, individual particles knocking electrons loose.
So it switches roles.
Kind of like a multitasking genius, maybe. Switching roles depending on the situation. Like someone who's a teacher by day and, a nightclub bouncer by night. The instant you observe it or interact with it in a certain way, it chooses its role. It isn't just that it's both all the time. It's that its very nature is undefined until a specific interaction occurs.
So it's not that it is a wave then becomes a particle. It's that its true nature at any given instant isn't really pinned down until we observe it.
Precisely. And this leads us directly to superposition. This one truly obliterates the idea of a single instantaneous state. Imagine a coin spinning in the air. While it's spinning, is it heads or tails?
Neither. Or both, I guess.
Right. It's existing in both potential states simultaneously. Quantum particles do this constantly. They exist in multiple potential states at once until an observation occurs. You know Schrodinger's cat, that famous thought experiment.
Be alive and dead cat, yeah.
It captures this perfectly. The cat is theoretically both alive and dead until you peek inside the box. Until that interaction, its reality is a blur of possibilities. There's no single instantaneous state. And then there's entanglement. This is the one Einstein famously called spooky action at a distance.
Ah, yes, the spooky stuff.
When two particles become entangled, they become intrinsically linked no matter how far apart they are. If you measure a property of one, like its spin, you instantly know the spin of the other one.
Right.
Instantly. Even if they're on opposite sides of the galaxy.
Which seems to violate, well, everything about speed limits in the universe.
It doesn't transmit information faster than light, but it shows a deep connection. It means that two instants of measurement, potentially light years apart, are somehow tied together. It suggests a deeper, non-local process is at play, dissolving the idea of truly isolated moments or locations having entirely separate fates.
Okay, so if outcomes are just probabilities until observed, and measurement can somehow link distant instants, what does this mean for the very nature of existence? Does our act of observation, of peeking inside the box, does it somehow shape reality itself?
This really forces us to reconsider the role of the observer, doesn't it? If the universe at its most fundamental level is described by probabilities that only collapse into a definite state upon measurement, well, it suggests a profound interplay. There's one radical interpretation, the many worlds interpretation.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that one.
It proposes that every quantum choice or measurement actually splits reality into parallel universes. So when that spinning coin lands, it's not that it chooses heads or tails in our universe, it's that it creates one universe where it's heads and another where it's tails.
Wow, that's a lot of universes.
An infinite branching book of possibilities. It completely shatters the idea of a fixed singular now or instant. The universe isn't a single predictable story, maybe. It might be more like a dynamic dance of chance and observation, constantly unfolding into myriad possibilities. It really challenges that old-school, deterministic clockwork view of the cosmos.
And this isn't just like theoretical musings locked away in physics labs, right? These concepts, these spooky quantum phenomena, they actually power a lot of the tech we use every single day. I heard this story, let's call it story 2, about a young medical student in Germany, Klaus. During his oncology rotation, he was watching patients wait for MRI scan results.
Ah, yes. A tense time.
Incredibly tense. And he felt this strange, almost quantum tension in that waiting period between the scan being taken and the doctor actually analyzing it. For the patient, reality was kind of in a state of superposition, right? The tumor could be shrinking or it could be growing. Both possibilities were terrifyingly real and existed simultaneously in their mind and their family's mind. The future was just the swirling cloud of probabilities. But the moment the radiologist looked at the images, made a conscious observation, interpreted them, that cloud collapsed into a single defined reality. A single report was written. A single path forward, good or bad, was chosen. Klaus said it was the closest he ever felt to experiencing the observer effect in the macroscopic world. Not that the doctor's mind literally changed the physical scan, obviously. But for the human being at the center of it, their perceived existence, their entire future, was fundamentally reshaped by that single act of conscious observation, collapsing the possibilities. It really makes you think about how much of our reality is held in this delicate balance of potential, just waiting for a conscious mind to perceive it into a definite state.
That's a powerful way to think about it. And what's truly intriguing is that this underlying quantum reality, the wave-particle duality, superposition, entanglement, is precisely what makes our smartphones smart. Our lasers precise and those very MRI scanners possible. It's a compelling sort of daily reminder that reality isn't just a fixed, instantaneous backdrop. It's a dynamic, unfolding interaction where potentiality becomes actuality, often through observation or measurement.
Okay. So events are processes. Observation can influence reality in these profound ways. What does this all mean for time itself, the way we experience time, linearly, universally flowing? Is that just another grand illusion?
That's one of the biggest, most exciting open questions in theoretical physics. It's often called the problem of time. It arises because our two greatest theories of reality, quantum mechanics, which generally assumes a universal absolute flow of time, and general relativity, which shows us that time is incredibly malleable and relative. Well, they just don't play nicely together when we try to unify them.
They conflict on the nature of time.
Pretty fundamentally, yeah. General relativity, for instance, tells us time can be stretched or shrunk by gravity and motion. Time literally passes differently for different observers, depending on their speed or how close they are to a massive object.
Yeah.
Think time dilation near black holes. Time slows down dramatically.
So time isn't this rigid external ticker tape, but more like a flexible coordinate woven into the fabric of space-time itself.
Precisely. And the conceptual conflict gets even weirder when physicists try to unify these theories into a theory of quantum gravity. They run into these equations where, quite surprisingly, the variable for time just disappears entirely.
Wait, time disappears from the fundamental equations?
At the deepest quantum level of the universe, potentially yes. It's like the universe's ultimate quantum state doesn't evolve in time at all. It suggests the cosmic universal wave function, the sort of blueprint of everything, might be fundamentally frozen, static. It's sometimes called the frozen formalism problem.
Frozen. So physicists are trying to find the universe's play button, basically.
You can kind of put it that way, trying to understand how the experience of time emerges from this apparently timeless foundation.
So if it's frozen at the cosmic level, how do we experience time flowing? How does it emerge from something seemingly static?
That's the million-dollar question. And there are several really fascinating ideas brewing. One compelling proposal, pioneered by Don Page and William Wooders, suggests that the universe appears to evolve for internal observers, like us, because of entanglement.
Entanglement, yeah.
Yeah. Imagine the universe as, say, two intertwined systems. One system seems to be changing and the other acts as an internal clock. Through their entanglement, the relationship between them, time emerges for an observer interacting with these systems. Even if the overall universe, viewed from some hypothetical outside, remains timeless.
So time is relational. It comes from the interaction within the system.
That's the idea. And this isn't just a pure thought experiment. It was actually tested, conceptually, with photons in an experiment in Turin, Italy, back in 2013. They showed that time can indeed be seen as an emergent phenomenon for observers within a quantum system, but it's absent for observers looking at the whole system from the outside. It implies our experience of time might be a relational phenomenon born from the ceaseless interactions within the universe rather than some absolute external thing ticking away.
It's incredible to think that time isn't this pre-existing container for reality, but something that might actually emerge from the interactions within it, from the relationships between its parts. This reminds me of story 3, another perspective I encountered. It's from a young physicist in Rome, Elena, who was inspired by thinkers like Carlo Rovelli.
Ah, Rovelli, yes, relational quantum mechanics.
Exactly. She doesn't see time as a river flowing through her city, Rome. Instead, she sees Rome itself as time. When she looks at the Pantheon, she doesn't just see an ancient building that has endured through time. She imagines the countless discrete events that constitute its existence right now: a quantum of light from the sun striking a marble column, a molecule of water seeping into a microcrack.
Every tiny interaction.
Yes. For her, time isn't some continuous line stretching from Emperor Augustus to today. It's the near infinite web of these tiny individual interactions and relationships happening now. The universe, she thinks, doesn't happen in time. The universe is the happening. It's the sum of all these relational events.
That's a radical shift in perspective.
It is. And from this viewpoint, the past isn't just gone, it's woven into the present state of things through these relationships. The future isn't some predetermined destination, but an open set of potential new relationships, new events. It completely dissolves that feeling of being like a helpless passenger on a moving train of time. Instead, it makes you feel like an intricate, active part of the dance of existence itself.
That beautifully encapsulates the profound shift in understanding we've been talking about. Time isn't some rigid ruler that governs events from the outside. It's potentially a dynamic, intricate dance of those events, woven into the very fabric of reality through their ceaseless relationships. It's a fundamentally different way of seeing the world, where that illusion of the instant really does give way to a continuous unfolding relational story.
So we've journeyed from, well, the everyday perception of a lightning flash as an instant to the philosophical idea that maybe everything is just a continuous process of events, then plunged into the quantum realm where reality seems probabilistic and observation plays this key role, finally arriving at this mind-bending idea that time itself might be an emergent property of these fundamental interactions and relationships. The myth of the instant truly does seem to dissolve when you look closely enough, doesn't it?
It really does. And what's truly remarkable, I think, is that understanding events as processes and time as potentially emerging from these fundamental relationships, it fundamentally changes our perception of reality itself. It suggests that even the most seemingly simple snapshot of a moment, like a single frame in a film, is actually an incredibly intricate, continuous unfolding. It's a grand, interconnected story that we are all actively participating in. There's always more happening beneath the surface, more process than instantaneous event.
Indeed. Even the simple act of blinking an eye, which feels utterly instantaneous, right? It actually contains an entire universe of unfolding process and interaction within that fraction of a second. It's not a blank moment. It's this complex, dynamic event constantly reshaping your perceived reality with every single flutter. It makes you realize the incredible richness packed into every single now.